Here we go, sports fans. It's week 12 in the NFL. We got 6 more weeks, including this week, before the season is over. They're entering the home stretch, so everything's been crazy this season. You never know who's going to win week to week. There's a whole lot more parity. So let's get right to it. My first topic of today is QBs on the move. Earlier in many podcasts, I spoke about various quarterbacks who I believe are going to be on the move at the end of this year. So, I'm going to give you my top 5 or 6 quarterbacks that in my mind are sure or the organization should move off of these quarterbacks at the end of the season. And I'm going to kind of rank them, in my opinion, projection going forward as far as skill, talent, age, so forth. So my number 1 quarterback that I believe should be on the move at the end of this season is Cam Newton. They've come to a head, kind of, in my opinion, what they can do is make a nice little clean break from Cam Newton and the Panthers. Look to draft a new guy come in the next year or so, or trade with another veteran team or another team with a veteran quarterback a la Phillip Rivers, and move quarterback for quarterback. Give both of them a pretty good start. They don't have to start from scratch. They're not with a terrible team or organization. So I can see them doing a 1-for-1 swap, and that be, in my opinion, a good fit for both teams. That leads to my second quarterback, as far as age and talent and so forth, is Matt Ryan. So 12 years in the NFL. I think it's time for the Falcons, and I mentioned it several times earlier in my podcast, that they should move on from Matt Ryan. Again, they can do a 1-for-1 swap, maybe with the Chargers as well. Or if Cam Newton doesn't go to Chicago, Matt Ryan go to Chicago or somewhere else. But he also needs a fresh start. So my number 3 quarterback I mentioned, along with Cam Newton in that first trade, is Phillip Rivers. Seems to be a little long in the tooth. Has never been able to get over the hump. Has had some good teams, some bad, not so good teams. I won't say bad teams, but not so good teams. And he's carried those teams. He's never had a cannon of an arm to begin with. I liked him at North Carolina State when he was still in college. I thought he was a really good quarterback. But him and the team, to me, talked a little bit too much junk. And the team with Lindell White, back in the day, they did some things that I didn't agree with. So I don't look too favorably at Phillip Rivers because of those things. So, again, I don't know him, but just those things that transpired back in the day. And maybe I'm mixing up Lindell White with the Tennessee Titans. But anyway, I just think he's a little too cocky for his own good. And maybe that's a little bit of a detriment to him because he's a little cocky, a little gunslinger attitude. So I think that hasn't boded well for him in his experience and in his time in the NFL. So my number 4 quarterback, again, a lot of these quarterbacks, in my opinion, can be interchangeable with teams, is Matthew Stafford. I didn't mention him earlier, but excuse me, Matthew Stafford, Detroit Lions. I think it's time for them to move off of him. He came out of Georgia, live arm, did really good things when Calvin Johnson was there, Megatron. But again, could never seem to get over the hump. A lot of talent. So, in my opinion, Matt Patricia should be looking to draft a quarterback, either trade Matthew Stafford for assets, or have him be the bridge quarterback the next year and then show him the door. My number 5 is Andy Dalton, Cincinnati Bengals, TCU guy. So I thought he was a really good college quarterback. He's been a serviceable quarterback for the Bengals, no doubt. But I don't know. The Bengals in a tough division, Steelers and Ravens. It's a very tough division for them and him to rise above those two teams. So maybe he can do some damage if he goes to another team in another division where it may not be as tough. Maybe the AFC South. Maybe go to a team in the AFC South with Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, and those guys. I think the Tennessee Titans may be in that division. But maybe go to the Tennessee Titans. Maybe replace Tannehill, but I don't know whether they really, really like Tannehill in Tennessee or not. Go to the NFC South. Doesn't seem, in my opinion, that Jameis Winston will have a job in the future. So Andy Dalton, Bruce Arians could be a very good quarterback coach combination. Bruce Arians is probably very familiar with him from his time in the Steel City with the Steelers and playing against the Bengals. So he can probably find some common ground very quickly with Andy Dalton, bring him into the fold with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and do some good things in that division. So my last and final quarterback on this list that should be moved is Eli Manning, 2-time Super Bowl champ. His time is done with the Giants. The Giants should have moved off him a long time ago, but they didn't. So to me, it's time to release him or he should retire. Now, my 1A, 1B, or whatever the case may be, my addition to this list is QBs that should be relegated to backup positions. Number 1 on that list, I just mentioned a second ago, Jameis Winston. This guy has continued to be a turnover machine. Bruce Arians has not been able to rein him in. As much talent as he hasn't been able to do the things that he needs to do within the offensive scheme, or when the protection and everything breaks down, to throw the ball away or just eat it. So Ben Roethlisberger has had that problem for years and years and years. Maybe it's just the cloth that he's cut from, and the mentality he has that he can make a play. But it's time for him to do one or the other, and he should be taking a back seat to whoever they bring in to Tampa Bay, or just release him so he can move on. And again, he may have starting quarterback talent, but he needs to do a couple of things to clean up his act when it comes to turnovers and decision making. So the next quarterback that should be relegated to backup position, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzmagic has been around the league, done an admirable job, but he should be somebody's backup safety valve if the number 1 guy goes down. Super smart guy, went to Harvard, So got a good head on his shoulders. Seems to play well in spots. So he can go to, a team like the Rams, or a team like the 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 Texans, or maybe the Colts, or Seattle, and be a serviceable backup, or maybe even the Saints. Bridgewater may move on. He can go there. But the Saints either need to keep Bridgewater, because Drew Brees is not going to be there very much longer, in my opinion. And the last guy, and he's been much maligned over, his season this season. Many has questioned why he was drafted where he was. And this guy is Mitchell Trubisky. So he's just suffered mightily. Matt Nagy seemed to have gotten him on track last season and done things that have led to his success last year, but they haven't seemed to catch that lightning in the bottle like they did last year and keep that momentum flowing. For whatever reason, the schemes aren't working. He seems to be regressing right before our eyes. So it's time for him to take a back seat, catch his breath, go back to square one, get himself together, and see whether he can be a number one guy or not. So nothing wrong. I wish I had enough talent to be a backup quarter in the NFL. I'm pretty sure it's a great life. You just sit on the bench, go to practice, get paid, play a game that you love, and make a lot of money even as a backup. So I can't fault the guy for doing, exactly what he loves to do, and I can't fault anybody for paying him. I wish I had, again, enough talent to even be a backup quarterback in the NFL. So I'm going to move on to this. So the Ravens. Bill Polian, a lot of people question probably, Lamar Jackson's QB acumen, whether he should be a QB at this level. I never question anybody's heart, their ability to win, anything of that nature. He played well for many years. I think 2 to 3 years at Louisville. So he wasn't like he played only 5, 6, 8 games or something weird. And he caught lightning in the bottle at the end of a year or something and won the Heisman miraculously and then was drafted. This guy's been playing quarterback for a very long time. So just like the gentleman Kyler Murray, he's been playing football at his size for a very long time. So it's not like he just all of a sudden became short. So he's been working around his height, peeking through windows, peeking around his offensive linemen, working in anticipation in his throws and getting receivers the ball. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. He's been a slighter frame guy until this past year where he put on like 25 pounds of muscle. But he's still, not a ginormous guy like Cam Newton is. So he's still a lanky guy, but that's what makes him so dangerous. He wouldn't be as fast as he is if he was Cam Newton's size. So he's lightning quick, stupid agility, can stop on a dime, change direction on a dime. And to me, he has the best coach in the AFC North in John Harbaugh. So the combination of that great coaching staff, Ozzie Newsome drafted a guy. He said, man, I can't pass on this much talent. So everybody else was probably doubting him and doubting everybody on the Ravens and within the Ravens organization for drafting this guy because he had a hinky quarterback delivery and his mom was his quarterback coach. I liken those types of things and people in their throwing motions to a la Jim Furyk in the PGA. If you ever watch Jim Furyk, I'm a golf guy. If you ever watch Jim Furyk, he has this weird hinky kind of swing, but he gets the job done. He plays well. He's won championships on the PGA, and he's been a staple on the PGA Tour for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. So the same thing can apply for Lamar Jackson. No, his throwing motion wasn't perfect coming out of college. No, him reading defenses and things of that nature weren't perfect coming out of college. But you know what Harbaugh and the Ravens did? We said we're going to give you good, easy throws, and we're going to have you probably run the ball 40% of the time. We're going to hand the ball off 30% of the time to the running backs, and then you're going to throw the other 30%. So they had a great game plan, and whatever the percentages are, they had a great game plan as far as how they're going to manage him throwing the ball, him doing RPOs and running the ball, and him handing the ball off to the actual running backs in the backfield. It worked phenomenally last year. And then they said, okay, at the end of the year, let's get back in the lab. You get in the weight room, diet, weight room, playbook, reps, reps, reps. And we see the result of it now. So it's time to just, hey, let this man have his due. Give credit to Harbaugh and the coaching staff and everybody involved with the Ravens for understanding and believing in this young man and what they have. And instead of trying to change him right now, right off the bat, they said, okay, let's work with his strengths and not force him to his weaknesses. Let's work within his strengths for now. Then, just like they did after year one, work on his weaknesses so they aren't such a huge weakness. So they've done that to their credit and to the rest of the NFL's detriment. So next time, when you see a guy of Lamar Jackson's pedigree within the college ranks, just don't dismiss the guy or misdraft him, because you're probably going to pay for it. So let's move to this topic now. The Saints. Who are they? The Saints beat up on the Bucks where, they should have. And actually, they should be on a 2-game winning streak. Except for the fact they lost to the Falcons. Who knew? They're 8-2. And this week, they're going to play the Panthers. I don't know what's going to happen. And you typically really don't know. And you have to kind of throw history out of the window when it comes to division foes and division rivals. Atlanta's on a 2-game winning streak, surprisingly enough. So they were on the operating table and the machines were going beep, and they were left for dead. But it seems as though they've arisen off of the table. Somebody hit them with an EKG machine. Pow! Clear! And they up. So what's going to happen this week? I'm looking for it to be a really, really good game. It's a division foe again. Excuse me, let me backtrack. I made a mistake. They are playing the Panthers. My bad. Not the Falcons. The Falcons are still on a 2-game winning streak. I don't know who they play, but don't doubt the Falcons. They up off of the operating table. They were left for dead. But the Carolina Panthers and Kyle Allen are in flux. Again, they're division rivals with the Saints. Controversy about Cam Newton. That's kind of died down a little bit. There hasn't been a whole lot of talk about it. But what I look for the Saints to do against Kyle Allen, the last game he looked super skittish against the Falcons, and that's where I was a little mixed up with that. So he looked real skittish against Atlanta. Atlanta took it to him. And he just looked out of sorts altogether. I truly believe the Saints have a much better defense than the Falcons. So what I expect, Saints to come out roaring, Drew Brees to have a good game. The Panthers defense is not that good. So I look for them to get off to a really fast start. The defense to pin their ears back. I think they're going to have 4 to 5 sacks, if not more. And they're just going to obliterate the Panthers. But as soon as I say that, the Panthers are going to somehow miraculously, behind Kyle Allen, do something weird. Drew Brees may have a 4-interception game or some, I don't know, weird game. He may have cracked a mirror or walked under a ladder, or a black cat has crossed his path. So, but I told you a couple weeks ago, don't bet on any games. You never know what the freak is going to happen. So, but I truly expect the Saints to kill the Panthers. Not literally, but on the field, figuratively destroy them early and quick. So let's talk about the Jaguars for a second. So the Jaguars have had some ups and downs, but here's the big question. Where do they go from here? They acquired Nick Foles. He ended up injured. Gardner Minshew mania started happening. Everybody was wearing mustaches and shades and just going bananas like Linsanity in the NBA several years ago. And Fitzmagic when he was doing his thing. But where do they go from here? If they can keep Nick Foles healthy, I think he's a really decent quarterback. I put him in the same category of like a Alex Smith type of guy. He can make all the throws, good leader. You know what you're going to get day in and day out as far as being a professional. On and off the field, great guy. So, but the question marks, in my opinion, come from other positions as long as Nick Foles can stay healthy. A la Leonard Fournette. He's had a couple weird meltdowns and some things of that nature. He's having a pretty decent year. He's averaging 4.7 yards a carry this year. He's only this is his second year. both the team and him. The team ranks 13th in rushing as well as passing, which is weird. I don't know if that's good luck or bad luck. I don't know. You superstitious people with the 13. So they seem to have a good backup. So if Nick Foles does go down again, to me, they have a serviceable guy who can get the job done. But then, what are they going to do at the other positions to give him some help? They have one or two good receivers. They got a good back. So what are they going to do in the draft? What is Tom Coughlin going to do? He was there originally a long time ago with Tony Baselli, and they originally did the expansion draft, and they started the franchise. Now he's back as a general manager. What is he going to do to surround Nick Foles and the rest of the couple of weapons that he has with better talent? So I think they should draft a good tight end. They have a couple serviceable guys, nobody who jumps off of the television or the paper at you as far as skills are concerned. So I would draft a tight end. They lost some defensive guys over the past several years, Jalen Ramsey, so on and so forth. So they need to replace some people on the defensive side of the ball and get him another top flight receiver, either through free agent, maybe even Antonio Brown next year. That could be an option. It gives him a really good number one receiver. And maybe Antonio Brown has learned his lesson. He'll be back in Florida where he's from, close enough to family, with a really good quarterback that can get him the ball, a good running game. So if they stack the box, that gives him one-on-one coverage, or vice versa. They can't stack the box. So if they want to double Antonio, then that gives Leonard Fournette more room to run. So that could be a very good pickup for the Jags. So Tom Coughlin, take a look at AB. I know you just got rid of kind of a loud guy in Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if you want another loud guy. But you can also put all of that stuff into his contract where if he starts acting the donkey, you can ship him out. So Jacksonville Jaguars, I'll look for you to make some leaps and bounds within the next year and a half to be a really decent team. Don't let me down. So, it's about that time in the show. Time for my 2-minute rant. And it's about the Eagles today. I'm kind of at a loss for words, but not really. What is going on? They're not a really good team right now. They are in a Super Bowl slump all of a sudden. They got a really good, talented roster, but for whatever reason, they can't put it together. They had the Patriots right in their sights. I mean, right in their sights. The game was right there for them to tie or take the lead. I don't know what the heck they were doing on that 3rd and 1 play. They called some back shoulder throw. They were close to the red zone or in the red zone. 3rd and 1. They call this weird back shoulder to the end zone play. Like, what are you doing? Get the first down. Then if you want to play around and monkey around with your play calling, and I don't understand it. Didn't understand it. Get the first down. That's the most important thing. Not try to win the game or tie the game on the 3rd and 1. Now you're left with the 4th and 1. You didn't get the 4th and 1. It was one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in recent play calling and in the recent weeks. Doug Peterson, I don't know what the heck you were doing or who was calling that play. It was playing out stupid. So to me, Doug Peterson and the coaching staff are to blame for where the Eagles are right now. The other stupid thing that he did, go on the radio and say, oh, we're going to go down to Dallas and win the game. Yeah, you should be telling the people and the players and your coaching staff that's what we're going to do. You shouldn't be verbalizing something like that. Giving them bulletin board material. Yeah, everybody talked about it. But this play calling and stuff just compounded the fact that you did that stupid stuff a couple weeks ago. So a very winnable game going down to Dallas, you just threw that in the garbage by firing their defense up. Their defense was struggling. And then you just, their flame was almost out. Then you go douse it with 5 gallons of gasoline, idiot. And then the play call this past week. You're not a good team making play calls like that. You are not. I think you're going to definitely, you may be in the running for the wild card, but you're definitely not winning the division playing like that, making play calls like that. You have no hope of winning the division. Maybe Dallas will fumble it away to you. I don't know if you're going to be in a tie but to me, you're not going to win the division making play calls like that. You're not going to win anything ever again making play calls like that. So Doug Peterson, coaching staff, offensive coordinator, whoever's calling the plays, get your head out your butt now. In a couple weeks, or this week coming up, you play the Seahawks at home. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Russell Wilson, that team is playing lights out. D-Jack is nowhere to be found. I don't know if you're going to get AB off the street. But you're in quicksand. You're not sinking fast, but you're in quicksand. You're sinking slowly, but surely, with no one to throw you a lifeline. So that's my 2-minute rant. Last week I promised you some picks. So here we go. Let's get right to the picks. Again, I appreciate all of you guys and ladies out there watching, sharing, liking. Continue to do it. Hit me up on Twitter at Judgmental Mind. Like the video on YouTube. Share it with friends and family. I love doing this. I hope you like it too. My picks for this week. Colts and Texans. Whoa. The Texans took a beating at the hands of Baltimore. Jacoby Brissett is back after having that knee injury. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think Deshaun Watson is going to bounce back. The Colts are coming to Houston. I think they're going to bounce back. I see a tight game. I see the Texans winning 24-20. Next game. Just talked about it. Seahawks at Eagles. Seahawks dominate the game. Russell Wilson does his thing. The Eagles lose 28-10. Cowboys at Patriots. Dak and the boys going Foxborough to meet Tom Brady, the seemingly ageless wonder. Cold, rainy. The Patriots don't lose in Foxborough. The defense is stellar. The DBs are stellar. Dak and the boys are clicking. I see a tight game. Tom Brady has not been Mr. Fantastic of late, but I see them winning the game. They didn't play well against Philly, so I see a game like that, a relatively close game, not as low scoring as that. So I see a game 28-24, Patriots win. Another good game. I like to pick the good, tough games to go. I don't like to pick the cupcake, sorry games to look at. Anyway, Packers 49ers. Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Garoppolo in San Fran. Toss up. I'm going to pick the 49ers in that defense. Aaron Rodgers is a phenomenal quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo played well, not that well this past week against the Cardinals. Probably wasn't expecting what they did. The offensive line has to give him a little more help. But I think the defense of San Francisco can get after and make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable. I see him having a 2-turnover game, either strip sack and fumble, or interceptions. So I see Garoppolo and the 49ers capitalizing on those turnovers. I think it's going to be another nip and tuck game, 24-17. 24-17. A one-score game, 49ers win. Last but not least, Ravens and Rams out in Cali. Lamar Jackson continues to astound us. Let's see. The Rams got back on track with a win last week. Let's see what they can do against Lamar Jackson. To me, Aaron Donald and the defense hasn't played well. They lost a lot on the defense, but they brought in Jalen Ramsey. Let's see. Donald hasn't done well because Sue isn't eating up double teams, in my opinion. So he's regressed as far as his numbers are concerned, not as a player, but just his numbers. So, tough game to call. Man. If the Rams can run the ball again, they can win. If they don't, I see the Ravens winning easily 31-20.